Rosann, we've known each other for 3 decades.
Yes, a long time.
And you have been a professional counselor.
As you have been a professional counselor, how many people have we known in Hong Kong?
Yes, quite a lot.
So many different people.
And so many changes.
And that's why we want to think about women now and women then, and how women have changed over these years.
That must be very interesting.
Yes.
And it covered different generations.
Always.
Well, if they're interested in what we are talking about, how are they going to find us?
They're going to find us Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, PsychoAlchemy. We are Women Now and Then.
See you there.
Hello, everyone. We're back again this week. You're with Women Now and Then, and Dorothy and Rosann, and we can remind you that we're each both experienced counselors. We're veteran counselors. We've been working in Hong Kong for the past 30 years. One of the things we talked about last week was identity. We were talking about our own identities when Dorothy left Hong Kong and came to the United States, and I left the United States and came to Hong Kong. So our comparisons of women now and then are women of 2 generations and cross-cultural differences, and how our ideas about self and identity actually were started, and how they evolved, and how they changed, and now how we recognize the changes in our identity. Fundamental to identity is the whole question of the woman's body. As we said in our introductory talk, we're going to be talking about identity, and then women's bodies and women's health. They go side by side, women's bodies and women's health. And then money and finances, because no woman ever has enough money. And our 4th big topic is relationships. We'll cover these over the series. So some will be at least one whole session, and sometimes it will take more than one session. And we keep living longer, so we've got to move on. Now, identity got us as far as women in their 50s, women in their 60s, and we've had a few of you write in, you want more about condoms and purchasing condoms on your own. Seems a lot of women have not purchased condoms. Let me assure you, it's the easiest thing possible. You're going to buy candies, you're going to buy sweets, you're going to buy blueberries. Buy condoms. You can use them yourself, or other people might need them. You never know when people might need a condom. So that's one part of women's health. Now, we're getting there, but let's go to, where does women's consciousness begin that she has a female body? When do you think girls know that they're different from boys, that the care of the female body demands something different from the care of the male body?
Well, maybe in a Chinese family, we are not that open-minded in talking about our body. And honestly, if I didn't go to a American primary and secondary school run by the Marino sisters, I think like a lot of the people in Hong Kong, talking about our body is still a taboo. Like I remember when I was younger, my parents both have to work. It's kind of not very ordinary at that time. At that time, most mother will stay home, but my mother decided to help my father in his business. So I would say she was one of those career women at that time, right? She worked with my father, and at that time we do have a Chinese maid to help in the family, and her responsibility also include giving me and my brother a bath. Right? But my experience of this woman giving me a bath is more like torture than enjoyment, because to her she has to clean the house, take care of the children, and at that time most people are working very hard, right? So even though we had my family had a family business, we don't make a lot of money. So my parents have to rent out 2 rooms in the
Yes.
apartment
Yes.
in order to make more money.
Yes.
So you can imagine this maid, Xiu Jie, right? She actually had to do a lot of house cleaning.
Yes.
And she even had to clean up these 2 kids,
Oh.
right? So I sometimes feel like I'm just like a furniture. She'll just go chuck, 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 chit, 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 and. So I never really feel that my body is something that is so precious, right? And
Wow.
I think until I was 8 years old,
Yes.
and my father's sisters and auntie Gu Jie, she lived in Macau, and
Yes.
occasionally she would come to Hong Kong to visit my father and my
Yes.
mother, right, the brother
Yes.
and the sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And she was such an angel, and she would just say, maybe I'll help with the bath,
Ah,
right?
so the auntie helped.
Right. It's totally different.
Really?
And then I realized there's certain part of my body that needs to be cleaned. So I always think that, and a better way to describe to the audience is, I used to think they just clean the surface of my body. And if I'm a refrigerator, they never open up the refrigerator to clean the rest of it. Right?
Of course.
So and that was like the first time, wow, she really cleaned me up. Right? And she
Yeah.
told me, Dorothy, there's certain part of your female body that you
Yes.
need to clean too. I said, oh, really?
Really? Yes.
Yeah. I don't know
Oh.
about the Western culture.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's so many stories. Well, thank you for telling us that, Dorothy. That's a great story. It's a wonderful story. To relay, I have a sister just 1 year younger, and bath time was simply put the 2 girls in the tub and that was it. Nobody washed us. We played with bubble bath and then you got out. There
Yeah.
was no attention to any part of the body. When I realized I was a girl becoming a woman, it was a shocking experience.
Wow.
I was getting ready for school one day and my mother picked up my pajamas and she said, Rosann, you've gotten your period. I had no idea what she was talking about. But she showed me this blood stain on my pajamas and I thought, well, how did that happen? There was no talk before that happened. So how old was I? Probably about 12, maybe 11 or 12. And I just was aghast. Where did this come from? How did it appear? What should I do? And then she showed me some handmade sanitary napkins.
Oh, right.
Not
At the time.
store-bought, handmade. She had a box of them in a shoebox, ready for me.
Oh, I see.
So what is, some of you might not know, you're all too young and living in such privileged lives. A handmade sanitary napkin is a piece of cloth, probably the size of a man's handkerchief, with some rags laid out in the center, and then the cloths fold over and over and over until it's like a bandage that could fit between your legs.
Right.
And you pinned it. A belt was made from an old nylon stocking. You pinned it in the front and pinned in the back. And girls had to learn to walk with this bulky homemade sanitary napkin between their legs. Now, I thought that this was the way everybody lived, because who did you talk to about sanitary napkins when you're 12 years old? But when I was teaching in China, and I had some all-girls sections, many of the girls told me that, of course, their mothers made homemade sanitary napkins, and their mothers who lived in the rural areas, and now that they were in colleges and universities in China, they still made their own sanitary napkins.
Really?
They washed them out, but they hung them behind the dorm. The lines were strung up for drying the rags in the sunshine behind the dorms, because you would not want anyone to see the washing of the rags. So this is quite a phenomenal
When was
subject.
that?
That was 20 years ago.
Okay,
20 years
so
ago.
it's 90s.
After I met you, and I was touring schools,
I see.
looking at home and family life programs.
Oh, I see, I see.
Now that content, that specific content of how you clean, how you dry, how you make homemade sanitary napkins is not known very widely now, but we do have many, many examples of new styles of handmade sanitary napkins for rural India, certain parts of Africa, even in the rest of Southeast Asia. Because where can women get the store-bought sanitary napkins? And besides, they're very expensive and they cannot be used over again.
Yes, yes.
Now, an interesting anecdote on this is that women find that many who are interested in the environment find that our constant use of these commercial sanitary napkins are not good for the environment at all. Not good for the environment at all. So it's also possible to buy rags online and have them sent to you so you can make your own sanitary napkin. Now, is that not a story of one generation and another,
Yes,
and East and West?
yes, yes.
Now, I want to go back to my mother instructing me to wear this sanitary pad and to change it. And it was then that I began to realize, gee, women have a lot of troubles if you got to remember the sanitary pad.
Yes, yes. And you also have to do all the cleaning. Kind of messy too.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
since we are one decade age-wise difference, I think I already no need to do all this like a handkerchief folding process.
Yes.
I already have something that can disposable. But my experience of my menstruation was pretty bad because I have severe cramp.
Ah, yes.
Very painful. And I think at that time I was around 12, 13 and at my secondary school. And every month I literally were in so much pain. I need to walk all the way down maybe 4th floor to the school, how to say, is it a secretary office? And I would just do this, and they open the glass door and they look at me and say, oh, go home lah. It's like I was in such pain.
Oh,
my face all turned pale.
Yes.
And it's like I'm going to faint anytime. I'm not just an actress, right? Acting, want to go home. But the cramp was so severe, and because mine is an all girls school, the secretary already know what's going on. You know, it's no time, it's no point of putting her in a bed to rest. It's so painful. I must go home. So my experience of my womanhood was pretty bad, and my mom at that time had no idea what to do, and she just as a result she took me to our family physician.
Oh yes.
At that time,
of course,
we were too young for a gynecologist, right?
Of course.
Then I remember Dr. Chow said something so humorous to my mom. That pain won't go away until she got married. And that's something I always remember.
Wow.
Okay, so get married is the only way to cure this problem. And the other thing he gave me, he immediately inscribed like 40 tablets. And I remember that it's Ponstan. Do you know Ponstan? It's not like a Panadol.
Yes.
Yellow and green. He gave me a whole bottle of those
for use one time.
For whenever you feel the pain.
Need. Oh.
And so my experience of menstruation cramp, is to get married and to have this yellow and green Ponstan. And that I have been eating that all the way up to maybe my first marriage.
Wow.
You can imagine how many painkiller
Dorothy.
intake.
Yes. Yes, but the pain is real.
Right.
Now, for our younger viewers, our older viewers, some women get cramps, some women do not get cramps.
Yeah, they are very lucky.
and the cramps are in the lower part of the abdomen. Some women get a backache.
Yes.
And it's also painful for such women. Other women get headaches. Some women get headaches, backaches, and cramps.
And the breast.
And the breasts are tender.
Oh, very, how to say?
Tender.
Tender, right.
Easily feel pain.
Yeah.
You feel like the bra is very tight. Now, young girls, how can you discuss these symptoms with boys and girls in the classroom? So in schools, we ask, can there be some all-girls sections so that we can talk about what happens with the onset of menstruation, what's going on internally in your body to prepare you for having children. Do 12-year-olds really want to hear about being prepared for having children?
You know, Rosann, actually my first sex education was from a video. Obviously, because Maryknoll is American system.
Yes.
They brought something from the United States.
Right.
And I remember once, I think for maybe primary 6 or even form 1, I cannot even remember, 11, 12, 13, we all have to sit in an assembly and they play this awful video.
Was it awful?
Really frightening.
Oh my
about
God.
having baby.
Ah.
Because we are all girls school, so we all this age, we just, you imagine, we just, it's like, you remember all the girls like, and I remember at that time, after that show, a lot of us just sit around and say, we don't want to have babies.
Yes.
No way we are going to have babies. So bloody.
So bloody. Yes.
And that's our first sex education. And it's sad because I would say it's the good intention of the Maryknoll sisters to have this video and show to all of us. But the thing is, there is no after video discussion or sharing. We don't have some good teachers like you. I mean, I can imagine if at that time after the show, they have somebody like Dr. Gao, and you will stand up and explain a lot of things. It will take away my nightmare. It's really bad.
Wow.
Our sex education was really a nightmare at that time.
Yes.
But compared to a lot of the schools at that time,
yes,
we are considered as band 1 school.
Yeah.
Oh, really advanced.
You were advanced.
We are
really
very advanced.
Of course. Of course. Well, in focus, we're talking about women's bodies and women's health. So some of the most natural of women's functions involve blood. Menstruation.
Yes.
You do pregnancy. That means no blood. Birth, a lot of blood. And you're back on menstruation again. Menopause, no blood. Now, I've left out the first time a woman has sexual intercourse because it's now questionable whether a woman bleeds or doesn't bleed. Major area of discussion for people who are having sexual intercourse for the first time. Let me just say a point on that. Some women bleed, some women do not bleed. Has to do with the structure of the hymen, which we'll discuss at another time, because this program is supposed to be overall on women's health. Women's health has so much to do with the age of the woman.
Yes.
Dorothy and I each spoke to you about our first awareness of going from girl to woman. Girl to woman. There are years of exploration as to whether you have to learn about developing breasts. Oh, girls compare it because it's so obvious. The boys all know whose breasts are developing faster than others. They know that for sure. Girls have learned to talk about it, but do you touch your own body? Do you touch your body when you're a teenager? In teaching sex education in Hong Kong secondary schools, one of the most fascinating questions of the boys is, do girls ever masturbate? Now, the girls say, why do the boys want to know that? Boys masturbate all the time. You see them touching themselves all the time. They even touch themselves in class. This is not a good thing. So when the laughter dies down about the boys in masturbation, the question comes up, Dr. Gallo, you didn't say anything about girls and masturbation. Now, has that ever come up in any of your counseling sessions?
Oh, definitely. And but it's maybe cultural difference.
Cultural difference.
When we do couple counseling, marriage counseling,
Yeah.
all these about sex, masturbation part usually happen near the last 3 minutes of our counseling
Really?
hour.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
Chinese, even though they have so many problems with sex,
Yeah.
like at their marriage, they don't want to talk about it. They will wait, and usually by our hours, 55 minutes, they will say, Dorothy, by the way, is it okay for me to talk about me and my wife's sex life? I said, it's almost.
You waited till the end. You waited till the end to say, well, of course, let's start. Yes.
Well, actually, because this is such a juicy part of
Oh, yeah.
our 1 hour, so
Yes.
maybe we end now. So when we come back, we are going to be starting with a juicy part of sex and masturbation. Why not,
Sex and
right?
masturbation,
Yeah,
onto that.
Let's do that.
Dorothy 啊，啲人咧成日話我哋九型人格嘅4號仔咧，就硬係咧好多愁善感，有分外多情嘅喎。你點睇呢一樣嘢？
咁就見仁見智嘅。不過比起其餘嗰8個 number 咧，我哋又真係好似好多時都被情所困咁樣，真係會令人會覺得我哋好多情嘅。
咁但係情又係乜嘢嘅一回事咧？
咁其實情好闊㗎，有對父母嘅情啦，對兄弟姊妹嘅情啦，友情啦咁。不過我諗最困擾我哋嘅就係啲痴情咯。同埋因為情而帶嚟嘅好多嘅傷痛。
咁啊，如果大家咧想知道我哋有幾咁多情咧，就留意我哋個節目啦。逢星期4晚夜晚10點正，練心堂濃本多情。
Okay, so we are back to this juicy talk on sex and masturbation.
Yeah.
Rosann, you know, I really want you to share your insight, your experience in talking about masturbation. Because as a Chinese counselor in Hong Kong, I was totally shocked, even now, 2019, when I counsel married couples or women in their 40s, they still don't feel very comfortable with touching their body, as if it's a crime, as if they have violate something. So I don't know. It's like maybe our culture gave us some sort of control, saying that if you're a good woman, you should not touch your body. And I think Americans are more, am I stereotyping?
Yeah.
Are more open-minded to this. Can you talk a little bit about your
The way in which you approach it in the classroom is it's normal if you do, and it's normal if you don't. I'm not so sure that it's Asian or Western.
Okay.
We have to understand that some people feel more at ease even listening to our discussion.
True.
Listening. Some people are just going to feel, I can't listen to this. It's too uncomfortable. Others are curious. But masturbation, let me just be clear, it means touching yourself. And for women, it could mean touching your breasts. It could mean running your hand over your abdomen and then between your legs. And do you want to find the places in your body where you happen to be most sensitive? Or do you want to experiment with not most sensitive, but can you still reach orgasm? Now, what is orgasm? We better explain that. Orgasm is when a woman reaches a period of a point of sexual fulfillment, that she's very anxious, and then all of those nerves climax with a great period of relaxation. Now, some people, in our case, we're talking about women, will touch themselves just for the sake of touching themselves.
Yes.
They don't have to reach orgasm all the time. Some will do it sometimes and will do it other times. again, it's like some people eat broccoli, some people don't eat broccoli. There's no rule that you must do this or that you should do this. But there's no reason why women cannot experiment, cannot try to find out. And if you are in a relationship with another person, and that person could be male or female, you can then explain by guiding the other person's hand what makes your body feel good. That allows that person to take your hand and touch his body or her body. Partner doesn't matter. It's most of the time it's a male and a female, but sometimes female and female.
Yeah.
It can happen. We live in a big city at a very modern time.
Yes.
So that sexual partners are not always of the opposite gender. So, but it comes to the part about masturbation is you know what pleases yourself. If you don't know, then you have to wait and wait. Will that partner ever get to the place that makes you happy?
Yeah.
So you're breathing and breathing and wondering and wondering. Well, now some people like that.
Yes, yes.
You know, it's a slow crawl. Other people want to get there right away.
Yes. Well, when you talk about this, I was thinking, maybe when we start as a teenagers, we observe that our body changes.
Yes.
And there are certain part of our body we don't feel comfortable touching it. And we should be the expert of our body. We should not expect the other partner, the other person, to know your body so well that once his or her hand put on your body will immediately, make you feel comfortable. So I myself, I would say I advocate masturbation because it's something belongs to you. If you don't feel comfortable with touching it, how can you be comfortable letting other people to touch it?
Oh, very good
right?
point, Dorothy.
Right?
Yeah.
Is your sacred place. So the thing is, in counseling, sometimes I do need to explain to my client, it's perfectly okay. It won't hurt you. The danger is because a lot of people see real life masturbation through the pornography. The
Oh,
AV.
yes.
And the negative thing about these AV, they exaggerate so much.
Of course.
And sometimes gave people a wrong concept.
Exactly.
Yeah, what is exactly happening to your body? And if you don't feel that sensation, you might think that there's something wrong with your body.
Right. This is pornography exaggerates. And there's such a variety in arousal times in women. Some women it takes a long time,
Yes.
others relatively short. But we also have to add, well, who is the partner? And what does this touching relationship mean? There are partners who are for sex only. There's no commitment, there's no talk of love, there's no talk of marriage and children. It's just plain sex. We are doing this because each of us wants physical gratification. Now, that's some cases. Somewhere along the line, and there are many variations, it's, well, maybe I might want to spend my life with this person. Not sure yet. And then another kind of touching relationship might be, we've talked a lot about having a life together. Now, we are endeared to one another, so now the touching relationship is overlaid very heavily with an emotional relationship and a committed relationship. So the touching means much more. And for some touching relationships, it's we want to have a baby together. Okay, that's another kind of touching going on.
Yes.
And it's as different as any two people might be at different stages of a woman's life. Let me move on. When people are in retirement areas and senior citizens' homes, none of those women are going to be pregnant again. And they might not use condoms because sometimes it's difficult for an older man to maintain an erection long enough to put a condom on. So I don't want to, not every sexual relationship is the penis is inside the vagina or even between the woman's legs, because men's bodies are different at different stages in their lives. But the idea of one person touching another person always involves a certain amount of trust and a certain amount of care, even if we're going to stop being touching partners as soon as this little sex act is over. So you have to know, what are you doing with this other person? What does it mean to you? Exactly.
But one thing, Rosann, we are talking about our bodies, right?
Yes.
So okay, now we are open up, we know our body, but since we know our body, we want to say no, right? And sometimes even emotionally we want to connect. Our body will physically say no, right? Our body is the most loyal. All right, you know what I mean? I like you a lot. I want to have intimacy with you, but somehow my body don't react, right? In situation like that, should I just trust my body and say, so I have no response, I don't feel, I feel dry, right?
Yes.
I don't want to have intercourse with you. So that's the whole, my question is, when I was studying counseling years ago, there was some sections on sexology, and they always talk about, it's okay if you don't feel you are ready for it, but sometimes even your physical body feel dry, you can go out and go to a drugstore and buy some KY Jello, and it will help, right? KY jelly or whatever that is. And by putting that on, you actually can have sex comfortably, right? It's no longer
it depends
painful.
what you want. It depends what you want.
So that's what I want to ask you. Should we just trust our body if we don't have the lubricant, we just don't have sex? Or should we trust that maybe it's just physically I'm not ready, but with the help of all these, maybe I can still have sex? Is it against my will, or is it I'm just, you know what I mean?
I hear you. And sex between two people is always between two people.
Right.
So if you're not feeling comfortable, you got to tell George or Janet. But you got to tell the partner, I am not feeling comfortable because this is happening to my body right now. This is what's happening to me right now. Now, if George doesn't care what's happening to your body, that's the big signal, goodbye, George. If he's saying, well, how can I help, or what can we do, or there's always tomorrow. There's always tomorrow.
True.
It doesn't have to happen right now.
Right.
And the quality of a relationship between a man and a woman, or between a woman and her partner, is not about how often we have sex, how good is the sex, how long does it last. Sex is only one small part of a human relationship.
True. Totally agree.
So if the body's not ready, the body's not ready. Relax, we'll go have pizza.
But the thing is, and as I hear you loud and clear, but the thing is, when you are in your 20s, or maybe even when you are in your 30s, somehow you don't have that confidence. And if you somehow you don't have that physical reaction response, you will be afraid that your partner will think that, oh, you don't love me, right? You don't feel sexy, you don't feel horny when you are with me. So what I experience with my clients, a lot of time I still have to admit, women today still fake it. They will make an effort in the sexual relationship. You are talking about a lot of self-confidence women. They know that sex is not everything. It's not today, we can do it tomorrow or even a weekend. But the reality in my counseling is, a lot of women, because they really want to hold on to the relationship, they will fake it they will do something, and they will even say, okay, now I'm not ready, but wait, I'll go to the restroom, do something, and then we'll come back, I'll be ready. And maybe they put on some KY or do whatever. So, and I don't know, I agree, if the man really loves you, he should be able to observe that you are not really enjoying it, or maybe you are in a painful situation. But sometimes when the man is all ready, I don't think they are that considerate. Sure, you can say, oh, this kind of George, maybe you can just get him out of your life.
Yes.
But when you really want to have a relationship and your self-esteem is not that high, you will do something that is against yourself.
Oh, I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And the last week, we were talking about how we teach women how to argue, how we teach men how to argue. Now, you talked about a man who's sexually excited might not want to listen to a woman who's not quite that excited yet.
Yes.
But when do we teach a man to get a woman ready to be sexually excited? You know, just because that penis is sticking up there, that doesn't mean the world's got to stop for you, George. It just has to be. But not too many 50 and 60-year-old men have talked to men in their 20s and 30s
Right.
about the many qualities of a relationship, not only the sexual part
Yes.
of the relationship. So I'm really encouraging some more cross-generational discussions among older adults. Thankfully, there are older adults in this world who can talk about what happens if you don't have sex that night. The marriage still goes on, the mating still goes on, but we got to get used to hearing the other stories.
Yes.
The other stories come from people in their 50s, their 60s, their 70s, because you have to have that much self-confidence. When you're in your 60s and 70s, you have lived through relationships. Not all sex was fun. All right, when was it more fun? When is it less fun? What can you do about it? When are the happiest moments? Try this with some 60-year-olds. When were the happiest moments in your marriage? You might not hear the sexy moments. You might not hear the sexy moments were the happiest moments. So we've got to not confuse that sex has to be happy, that happiness depends on sex. They're both phenomenally complex concepts. And they all involve women's bodies. Women's bodies and her health. And you see, we're talking again about her happiness, her satisfaction, and it has to do with a specific part of her body, the vagina and all of the vaginal area. We're talking about one area making her happy? Come on.
You know, when you mentioned that we need male model, role model, telling the truth, because when the men were young, they just how to say, exaggerate the sexual performance, everything, and for generations, and they just not telling the truth. And now we are doing a program, Woman Now and Then. Maybe one day we should do something, Men Now and Then. And and the young men have to know, you don't need to, every time when you have sex with a woman, you have to go all the way and have an orgasm in order to prove yourself that you are a very powerful and a very, how to say, macho kind of man. And women, at the same time, if we have enough self-confidence and we're willing to explain to the man, when you are doing this and I don't have that kind of response, doesn't mean that I don't love you. And if we only do it halfway, and it's okay. It's okay. We are not baking a cake. All right. And all this cuddling, is it cuddling? Yeah. And all this caressing is already good enough. And if we are really comfortable with our body, and we try to explain to our partner on that, I would say that all these sex and relationship will be very smooth. Yeah.
I don't know it's smooth, but at least it's talked about rather than hidden. Because we don't want women to keep holding things in their bodies that they cannot explain. That doesn't make her body well. We need to talk more about this repressing feelings in women as they deal with life. Some of it is with one man or men in general. But that takes us across the gap. Let's look at people next time. Let's look at, as we're working on this, let's look at some older couples, older women. How do they feel about life? Because it's also said that until you've had a child, you're not really a woman. Yes, until the next time. We're moving on.
Dorothy 啊，啲人咧成日話我哋九型人格嘅4號仔咧，就硬係咧好多愁善感，又分外多情嘅喎。你點睇呢一樣嘢？
咁就見仁見智嘅。不過比起其餘嗰8個 number 咧，我哋又真係好似好多時都被情所困咁樣，真係會令人會覺得我哋好多情嘅。
咁但係情又係乜嘢嘅一回事咧？
咁其實情好闊㗎，有對父母嘅情啦，對兄弟姊妹嘅情啦，友情啦咁。不過我諗最困擾我哋嘅就係啲痴情咯。同埋因為情而帶嚟嘅好多嘅傷痛。
咁啊，如果大家咧想知道我哋有幾咁多情咧，就留意我哋個節目啦。逢星期4晚夜晚10點正，練心堂濃滿多情。
Oh, Dorothy, we were starting on pregnancy and will it affect woman's body? By golly, it affects women's body. Women don't know how large those breasts can get until the pregnancy proceeds, or carrying this tummy, or how your back aches, or how you will walk differently. Pregnancy changes the way the woman talks, how she feels about herself, and she feels something within her which men never feel. You do not know what it's like to be pregnant, George. You don't know, your father doesn't know, your son doesn't know. Women know. It's often sometimes a point of acknowledgement of maturity in a woman. If she has born a child, then she's mature. Then she's mature.
Well, I agree. You motherhood really changes a woman a lot. Yeah.
I'm not so sure she has to bear the child, but motherhood definitely changes a woman. When you are in charge of caring for an infant, a toddler, you got that preschooler hanging on your leg all the time. You go, I never knew motherhood would be this demanding. I never knew motherhood would take so much time. Till another mother says, wait until they're teenagers. If you think they take time now you know where she eats, where she is, and where she slept last night. But with your 15-year-old, you have no idea. They call you on the cell phone, tell you're in this place, they might be someplace else. Are they eating healthy food? You have no idea. And dare you ask, where did she sleep last night? Mothers of teenagers, mothers of preschoolers say, take the preschoolers, as demanding as they are. Teenagers are a heartache on women. So motherhood changes you. You cannot be yourself anymore. You're always carrying, you're caring, you're wondering about, you're giving strength to another human being.
But our bodies, are they prepared for all this hardship? I thought we are deteriorating, right?
Oh, you can't deteriorate. Okay. When you have young children in front of you, you are not allowed to.
You become supermom.
You become supermom, and it's remarkable how the hormonal flow that has to do with care keeps on going. We hear stories of children in refugee camps. We hear stories of where there are people starving, where women move mountains to make sure their children are safe and that their children have something to eat.
Yeah.
That mother bear syndrome comes through. So care of the bodies, well, it's tough being a mother. You're drained physically if you gave birth. You're drained emotionally and socially because many of us who are mothers also have George waiting somewhere. So George wants to know, how come you're paying so much attention to that
And
child?
you still have to entertain George,
And
right?
what about me? How does that work? And you say, well, over the years, the mother of the teenage girl and the father of the teenage girl may be quite differences in opinion. Should you let her stay out until what time? He says, I want my daughters home at 10. She said, that's unreasonable in this setting. They can easily be out until midnight. Oh, no, I'm staying up. I'm going to be here when my daughter walks through the door. Okay. How does a father learn to be a father? How does a mother know what her teenage daughter or son is capable of? How much can your son, let me go from daughter, how much can your son drink before he's drunk?
Wow.
Do mothers know that? Father says, don't worry about it. Guy's got to learn to drink. You say that, George, but he's your son. When is he going to learn to drink? Oh, okay. Well, I'll pick him up wherever he is. And the son comes in and says, I don't want you picking me up. I will take care of myself. So the heartaches, the issue of can you let that child take care of himself or herself, it wears out both parents. But women, we're talking about women now and then.
Right.
When she was a young girl, she remembers how she felt when she was 15. She remembers what 18-year-old boys were like. Now she has a son who is 18. Complex emotional development.
All this nightmare just creep back.
Just there again. It's there again. And emotions help us to remember ourselves back then and ourselves now.
But if there are so many in the head of the woman, do you think she can still have the time to take care of her body? Right? And at that time, I would say, as you said, George is still demanding. The mother needs to entertain, and then with the teenagers, and I think after the childbirth, maybe the woman's body also changes, right?
Oh, yes.
So at that time, what would you suggest for women?
Oh, there are no easy suggestions. Societies from days of old have tried to figure out, do women need time off from sex for a month, 6 weeks, 6 months, a full year? Woo. If you're nursing the child, that in a way helps prevent pregnancy with yet another child, but maybe not in all cases, in all ways. But when does a woman get fully involved in sexual excitement? Because she's got a baby crying at any time during the night. Do you think George is going to get up and take care of that baby? Let's be real here. So husbands and wives, for the first year or two after the birth of a child, until that child gets sleeping habits that are pretty regular and predictable, the sex life of the husband and wife cannot be so anticipatory. You can want it to happen, but you chose to have these children, or maybe you chose to have these children. You have them.
You have that.
Now you have to take care of them. So there's stories of, her vagina is now wider because she's had a child. That's true. So does the penis size change? Should the penis be fulfilled? Are we really worried about how comfortable that penis is inside the vagina? The penis is pretty comfortable. There are very few owners of a penis who will complain about being inside the vagina of a woman. So I hear you that the vaginal walls may stretch some, but that's not the only part of sex. The nerve endings in the reproductive area are many and varied and have less to do with the vaginal walls. Don't worry about the vagina being a little bit wider. Please don't worry about it.
Well, it's so interesting because in Chinese,
Yes.
they always complain after having child
Yes.
or maybe children,
Yeah.
their husband and wife sexual relationship deteriorate. And I like what you said. I don't think it's totally because of the sex life. Maybe it's of the crying baby. The woman have too much on her mind, and maybe even the father at the same time suddenly had too much responsibility.
Yes.
Right? He is
Yes.
now making money not just for his wife, he had a baby at home, right? So it's like suddenly the couple both are in so much emotional
Yeah,
tension.
yeah.
So, and one thing good is if you have a good sex, at least for that 10-15 minutes or even more, you can have some release.
Or even less.
Even less. But
All right.
but if somehow because of all this tension you decided just to stay away from this intimate relationship, actually might end up there's no release. That's how I see it, right? Some people will ask me, well, we just have one baby, and now the baby is like 6 months, I'm still breastfeeding. Should I go back, have sexual relationship with my husband? Should I ask my mom to take the baby back home, and then the couple had afternoon sex? They will ask something like that. And I would say there's no formula. As you said earlier, both of you have to really ask yourself what you really want.
Yeah.
And I remember one wife said it so nicely, and she said, we thought we are having sex, but end up we just hold to each other and we fell asleep like in 5 minutes.
Because we're so tired.
Yeah, because so tired. And that's a way of taking care of our body. You know, maybe at this stage 40, 30 is not that young. If you have young children, you are very tired. You just need to rest, and maybe that's the best way to take care of ourselves, right?
Rest, yes. And speaking of taking care of yourself, as the years roll along and you're coming up towards menopause, that scares women.
Oh, yes. I
That
hate it.
scares women. Many women have menopause comes at about age 50, but any time at about age 40, 43, maybe even 38, the periods become less regular, sometimes heavier, sometimes more uncomfortable. And women wonder, well, what's happening to my body now? Remember, that's the secret of women's bodies.
Yes.
What's happening to me when I start menstruating? What's happening to me when I'm feeling sexy? What's happening to me with pregnancy? What's happening to me with menopause? It's always on the mind. What's going on?
Yes.
What's changing in my body? Something's always changing in your body. Now, menopause, clarification, you don't know if you're going through menopause until the bleeding actually stops. So you can say, I have been through menopause, or I'm anticipating menopause, but you don't know it's over until it's over.
And you know, one thing funny is I remember a young man, not that young, a son of an older woman, and he came to me and said, you know, Dorothy, I never understand my mom. Before my mom had menopause, she said that it's premenopause syndrome.
Right? Premenopausal symptoms.
The whole menopause thing. And she said, he said, it's almost 10 years.
It could be.
During menopause, and after that my mom still screamed at me, and my mom said it's post-menopause syndrome.
Oh
But
my
I
goodness,
think
of course.
to a lot of men, they don't understand. It's so uncomfortable, and I don't know whether it is true or not. When I had my menopause, was really very painful, sweating like crazy.
Yes.
And like
Hot flushes.
Hot flushes. And you like sleeping, and then all sweat, and you change everything, and then suddenly you feel so cold.
Yes.
It's like you have 4 seasons in 2 hours.
Yes.
And
yes.
very hard to explain to anybody.
hard.
And you're really bad temper, and it's I'm so glad it's finally over. Then
women love it when it's finally over.
finally over.
It's nice, re-energize, and use your time the way you want. But it shows us how hormones regulate our bodies, how much of our health is related to our life stage, and
Yes.
finding balance at each life stage. How much exercise, how much good food or
Yes.
not so good food, how much rest, how much sleep. Women have to become extremely conscious of, where am I in the life cycle? What part of this is normal for women at my life stage? That's why we want more health education for women.
Definitely.
So that you can be aware that what's happening to you is part of your life stage.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what's going on right now.
Yes, yes.
That's what's going on right now.
I want to ask you one technical
yes, of
problem.
course. Well,
And some of my clients will ask me, is it true after the menopause, she doesn't feel sexy anymore? Meaning she liked to touch herself
Yes.
before menopause.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like suddenly in her maybe 55, she's finally have the grand finale, nothing happened, menopause over. She suddenly, the major difference is that she no longer feel like touching herself. You know, when she was in her early 50s,
Yeah.
she can still watch a AV, a pornograph, and she get excited. But now she said, suddenly all the juice gone.
Wow.
What do you think? Is it
I think it's individual
case?
differences. I think it's
Okay,
individual
okay.
differences. And it's only for today or this week or this month. Wait and see what happens. Not touching yourself is one thing. Being attracted to a man or other men is quite another.
Yes. Okay.
So we don't know if men have entered her life who might be interested in being near her physically, and whether or not she wants that. Again, we don't have so much research on women post-menopause. You know, this diagram of women's life cycle is menstruation, pregnancy, menopause.
And stop,
There's
right?
a lot more to life
true.
after menopause. And we need to help women to understand what are the health issues in their 50s, in their 60s, in their 70s.
Yes, yes.
You're still loved, and you might still want to love your own body. It could happen. But we need more research on older women, women now and then.
Yes.
Now, we want to pull this together a little bit because we've been talking about so many different topics. I have one book I wanted to mention.
Okay.
And this is the book. It's called The Shelter of Each Other, Rebuilding Our Families. I chose this one because so much, I talked about the life stage of women, but so much depends on who are the people in our family. When you're growing up, you pretty much know who your mother and father are. They might not even be your biological mother and father, but you have some parental figures. As a young adult, you develop a family. You may have, may get married, and you may have children, or you may adopt children. As you get older, and your children go have children of their own, women are facing the question, well, who is my family? So if we look at the notion of rebuilding a family, we can rebuild those biological marital family members, but we also might look at other ways that we can have caring relationships with people who are not biologically related to us.
Wow.
So rebuilding our family comes in. I would recommend this
Wow,
book.
this is a very good concept. Maybe for a Chinese culture, we always think that family is immediate family,
Yes.
blood related, right?
Yes.
But the thing is, I also believe in that. Given now a lot of people are not getting married, they're
Yes.
single, they live by themselves.
Yes.
And if their parents pass away and their relatives just move, their siblings all gone, and somehow they can feel very lonely.
Yes.
But if you can have a different concept, what family is all about, you don't need to have immediate family, right? You can have good friends. Like I always see you as my mentor and my godmother, right?
Yes,
and I
godmother.
have such a good time talking to you. I see you as family members. But if more people are willing to open up their heart, open up their mind to this concept, I think there will be less and less lonely people in this big city.
I think so. Big cities do it because
Oh.
so many people are living alone that we don't have a term which is family or friends. Well, we have friends who are very close to us, but we don't have a word for that.
For that.
We don't have a word for that. So that was my book is
Ah,
about
great.
rebuilding families.
Yeah.
rebuilding families.
And I would like to. I hope I can take you to this movie. I saw it already,
Yes.
but I think you would like it. It's the movie called The Wife.
Oh, we've heard a lot about
yes,
The Wife.
yes,
Yes.
by Glenn Close.
How did it interest you?
Oh,
What
well,
was-
I think I always liked Glenn Close.
Yes.
I think over 25 years back,
Wow.
her first movie was Fatal Attraction.
Oh,
Remember that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that time I was already a counselor, and this extramarital affair kind of thing had always been a big thing in marriage counseling.
It's always in marriage.
Right.
Yes.
And her acting was so good and always on my mind. I felt bad because she should won an Oscar then, but at that time was I think Cher,
Yes.
Moonstruck. Got the
Whoa.
Oscar instead of her. Now, almost 30 years later, she's doing a very fine acting at The Wife. The movie is very close to what we talked about in last week and this week. We talk about the identity of a woman, and also how she has to give up a lot of herself in order to maintain a relationship.
Yes.
Remember last week, Rosann talked about the three things: the career, the husband, and the children. Actually, at that story, Glenn has to make a choice. She gave up her career, and the whole story is about how she really want to get out of that original choice.
Yeah.
And it's such great
Wow.
acting. I will really recommend. The movie start at actually at Valentine's Day.
Yes, did it?
I watched it after Valentine's Day, and I was shocked because I said, "Wow, this movie was a little bit heavy." And if you think of going to a movie with your lover or your husband, it's a Valentine's movie, it can be quite alarming.
Yeah.
Startle. And especially this movie, I didn't recommend my mom to see it because
Oh.
I'm afraid she will think, well, I also have sacrificed a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe good for my
generation.
mom because she still believes that's the best choice. But maybe for some people, if the husband are not that appreciative, that woman will regret. Yeah, right. They will say, maybe I have wasted my life.
Yeah.
And what is in it for me, right? That's always the thing. But that would be a good way to either read a book or go to a movie if it's still on, and to really see how women now and then.
Women now and then,
Women
of
now
course.
and then.
And it's changing.
Yes.
It's changing. Every part of it is changing.
Right.
Which is why we need to talk about the way it was, the way it is.
Yeah,
The Chinese way of looking at it, the Western way of looking at it.
right.
Are there so many differences?
Yes.
Yes, there are so many differences.
So can you tell me give our audience a little preview? What are we going to talk about next week?
Oh, money. How do you start earning it? How much do you need? What are you worth? Money. I can assure you, women do not have enough money saved or being saved for getting old. Women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s need more money. We've got to work on money.
Yes.
Money.